Welcome back to Smart English Practice, everyone. I'm your host, Liam.
And I'm Olivia.
Today, we're diving into something that's going to completely transform how you approach English learning. We're talking about the hidden psychology behind why some people become fluent in English while others struggle for years, even decades.
You know, Liam, I was just thinking about my own journey. I remember when I first started learning English seriously, I had this moment where everything clicked. But before that moment, I was stuck in what I call the grammar prison.
The grammar prison. I love that term. Tell us more about that.
Well, I spent 3 years memorizing grammar rules, conjugating verbs, and doing endless exercises. I could pass any grammar test you threw at me, but when someone asked me a simple question like, "How was your weekend?" I would freeze completely. My brain would go into this panic mode where I was trying to remember if I should use past simple or present perfect.
That's exactly what happens to millions of English learners worldwide. They become what I call grammar zombies. They know all the rules, but can't have a natural conversation. And here's the shocking truth that language schools don't want you to know. Native speakers break grammar rules constantly, and we still understand each other perfectly.
Absolutely. Just yesterday, I was listening to a conversation between two American friends, and one of them said, "Me and Sarah went to the store." Technically, that's incorrect grammar. It should be Sarah and I went to the store. But did anyone care? Did anyone not understand what he meant? Of course not.
This brings us to our first major revelation today. The biggest lie in English education is that you need perfect grammar to communicate effectively. Think about this. When you were a child learning your first language, did you study grammar books? Did you analyze sentence structures?
Never. I was probably 4 years old when I could have full conversations with my parents. I had no idea what a verb was, what tenses meant, or how to diagram a sentence. I just spoke naturally because I was surrounded by the language.
Exactly. And that's the key insight we want to share with you today. Language is not an academic subject to be studied. It's a living, breathing tool for communication. When you treat English like a school subject, you create this artificial barrier in your mind.
Let me share a personal story that illustrates this perfectly. I have a friend from Brazil named Carlos. When Carlos first arrived in New York, his grammar was terrible. He would say things like, "I am having 25 years old," or "Yesterday I go to the supermarket." But you know what? Everyone understood him perfectly, and more importantly, he wasn't afraid to speak.
That fearlessness is crucial. Carlos improved rapidly because he was more focused on communication than perfection. Within 6 months, he was having deep conversations about philosophy, politics, and life. Meanwhile, I knew other international students who had studied English for 10 years, but were still too scared to order pizza over the phone.
The difference was mindset. Carlos treated English as a tool for connection, while the others treated it as a test they might fail. And here's something fascinating. Research shows that language anxiety actually blocks the part of your brain responsible for language processing. When you're worried about making mistakes, you literally can't access the English knowledge you already have.
This is why we always tell our listeners, your English is probably much better than you think. The problem isn't your knowledge, it's your confidence. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed that your English is better when you're relaxed? Maybe when you're talking to children or when you're really excited about something?
That's such a great observation. I remember when I was learning Spanish, I could barely say hola when I was nervous. But when I was playing with my host family's kids, suddenly I was telling elaborate stories and making jokes. The difference was that I stopped monitoring myself and started focusing on the message I wanted to convey.
That's the secret sauce right there. Stop monitoring and start communicating. But here's a challenge most people face. How do you build that natural confidence when you're not surrounded by native speakers? How do you create that immersive environment from wherever you are in the world?
Great question. This is where most traditional language learning gets it completely wrong. They try to teach you English in your native language, which creates this mental translation barrier. Every time you want to say something, your brain goes through this process. Think in your native language, translate to English, then speak. That's why you feel slow and unnatural.
The solution is what we call English immersion from home. You need to start living in English, not just studying it. And I don't mean that you need to move to an English speaking country. I mean, you need to make English a natural part of your daily life.
Let me give you some practical examples. This morning, I woke up and instead of checking my phone immediately, I spent 2 minutes describing my dreams in English out loud. While making coffee, I narrated the process. I'm grinding the beans. The aroma is amazing. I'm adding hot water slowly. This might sound silly, but it trains your brain to think in English naturally.
That's brilliant. And here's why this works. You're not trying to have perfect grammar or use advanced vocabulary. You're just describing reality as it happens. This is exactly how children learn language. They don't separate learning time from living time.
Another powerful technique is what I call emotional English learning. Instead of memorizing random vocabulary lists, attach new words to real emotions and experiences. For example, instead of learning that frustrated means annoyed, wait till you actually feel frustrated about something and then express it in English. I'm so frustrated with this traffic.
That emotional connection is everything. Your brain remembers things much better when they're connected to real feelings and situations. This is why people remember song lyrics so easily. They're connected to emotions and rhythm.
Speaking of rhythm, let's talk about one of the most overlooked aspects of English fluency, the music of the language. English isn't just about words and grammar, it's about rhythm, stress, and intonation. When you match the natural rhythm of English, you sound more fluent even if your grammar isn't perfect.
Absolutely. I've noticed that many English learners focus so much on individual words that they miss the bigger picture. English is like a song. It has a natural flow and rhythm. When you speak with the right rhythm, people perceive you as more fluent and confident.
Here's a practical exercise for our listeners. Take any English sentence and exaggerate the rhythm. For example, I'm going to the store to buy some bread. Notice how certain words are stressed while others are quick and quiet? This is the natural music of English.
Now, let's address something that holds many people back, the fear of making mistakes. I want to share a story about Maria from Colombia. Maria was so afraid of making mistakes that she would rehearse every sentence in her head before speaking. Conversations felt like job interviews because she was so focused on being perfect.
What happened to Maria?
One day, she was in a coffee shop and witnessed an accident outside. Without thinking, she started talking to the barista about what happened. She was so focused on sharing the story that she forgot to worry about her grammar. Later, the barista told her it was the most natural conversation they'd had. That's when Maria realized that communication is about sharing ideas, not demonstrating grammar knowledge.
That's such a powerful story. It shows that fluency isn't about perfection, it's about connection. When you focus on connecting with another person, the language flows naturally. But when you focus on impressing them with your grammar, you create this artificial barrier.
Here's something that might surprise you. Native speakers make mistakes constantly. We say, me and John went to the store instead of John and I went to the store. We end sentences with prepositions. We use double negatives for emphasis. Language is alive and constantly changing, and grammar rules are just general guidelines, not absolute laws.
This connects to something I call perfectionism paralysis. Many English learners set impossible standards for themselves. They think they need to sound like a BBC news presenter or a Hollywood actor. But in reality, English has hundreds of different accents and styles. There's no single correct way to speak English.
That's such an important point. I've met people from India, Nigeria, Australia, and Jamaica who all speak English fluently, but they sound completely different from each other. The goal isn't to eliminate your accent or personality, it's to communicate clearly and confidently.
Let's talk about something practical now. How can our listeners start implementing these ideas today? What's the first step someone should take after listening to this podcast?
The first step is what I call the English mindset shift. For the next week, I want you to change your relationship with English. Instead of seeing it as a subject to study, start seeing it as a tool for expression. When you wake up tomorrow, spend the first 5 minutes of your day speaking English out loud about anything, your dreams, your plans, your feelings.
And don't worry about making mistakes. In fact, I want you to make mistakes intentionally. Say something wrong on purpose, then correct yourself. This trains your brain to see mistakes as normal parts of communication, not failures.
Another crucial step is to find your English personality. Many people feel like they become different people when they speak English. This is actually normal. Different languages can bring out different aspects of your personality. Embrace this change instead of fighting it.
I love that concept. I actually feel more confident and outgoing when I speak English compared to my native language. It's like English gives me permission to be a slightly different version of myself.
Now, let's talk about one of the most powerful techniques for rapid improvement: shadowing. This is where you listen to native speakers and try to speak along with them in real time. It's like karaoke for language learning.
Shadowing is incredible, but here's the key. Don't worry about understanding every word. Focus on matching the rhythm, intonation, and flow. Your brain will start to absorb the natural patterns of English, even if you don't consciously understand everything.
Start with something simple like a weather report or a children's story. Listen and repeat, trying to match not just the words, but the feeling and rhythm. Do this for 10 minutes a day, and you'll notice dramatic improvements in your natural flow.
Speaking of natural flow, let's discuss the importance of thinking in English. This is probably the most transformative skill you can develop. When you think in English, you eliminate the translation delay that makes conversations feel slow and awkward.
But how do you start thinking in English when you're still learning? Here's a simple technique. Start with inner commentary. Throughout your day, describe what you are doing in English inside your head. I'm walking to the kitchen. I'm opening the refrigerator. I'm looking for something to eat.
That's perfect. And don't worry if you don't know every word. If you can't think of refrigerator, just say cold box or food box. The goal is to keep your internal dialogue in English, not to use perfect vocabulary.
Another powerful technique is emotional labeling. When you feel something, immediately name it in English. I'm feeling frustrated. I'm excited about this. I'm confused by this situation. This creates strong emotional connections with English words.
Let's address something many of our listeners struggle with: understanding fast-spoken English. Native speakers often speak quickly and use contractions, slang, and cultural references that can be confusing.
The secret to understanding fast English isn't to focus on every word. Native speakers don't even hear every word clearly. We use context, body language, and cultural knowledge to fill in the gaps. You need to develop this same skill.
Here's a practical exercise. Watch a movie or TV show you've already seen in your native language, but watch it in English. Since you already know the story, you can focus on the rhythm and flow of the language without getting lost in the plot.
That's brilliant. And here's another tip. Start with content made for children or teenagers. These shows use simpler language and clearer pronunciation, but they're still natural and engaging. Don't feel embarrassed about watching content below your intellectual level. You're training your ear, not your brain.
Now let's talk about something that can accelerate your progress dramatically: finding your English community. Language is fundamentally social, and you need people to practice with.
But what if you live in a place where English isn't widely spoken? This is where the internet becomes your best friend. There are thousands of English learners and native speakers online who want to practice and help each other.
Join online communities, participate in English discussions, comment on videos, write in English forums. The key is to use English for real purposes, not just practice exercises. When you're genuinely interested in a topic, you'll naturally want to express yourself, and that motivation drives real learning.
Here's something that might surprise you. Teaching English to someone else is one of the fastest ways to improve your own English. When you explain something to another person, you're forced to organize your thoughts clearly and use simple, natural language.
That's so true. You could find someone who speaks your native language and wants to learn it, then do a language exchange. Spend 30 minutes teaching them your language, then 30 minutes having them help you with English. It's free, fun, and incredibly effective.
As we wrap up today's episode, I want to leave you with this thought. English fluency isn't a destination you reach. It's a journey you enjoy. Even native speakers are constantly learning new words, expressions, and ways of communicating.
The goal isn't to become perfect. The goal is to become confident, natural, and effective in your communication. Focus on progress, not perfection. Celebrate small victories, and remember, every conversation is an opportunity to improve.
Before we finish, let's summarize the key insights from today's episode. First, stop treating English like a school subject and start treating it like a communication tool. Second, embrace mistakes as natural parts of the learning process. Third, surround yourself with English in your daily life.
Fourth, focus on rhythm and flow, not just grammar and vocabulary. Fifth, think in English by starting with simple internal commentary. Sixth, find your English community online or in person. And finally, enjoy the journey and celebrate your progress.
Your English journey is unique to you. Don't compare yourself to others. Focus on your own growth and improvement. In our next episode, we'll be diving deep into the psychology of accent reduction and whether you should worry about having an accent when speaking English.
Thank you for joining us today on Smart English Practice. Remember, you're not just learning English, you're expanding your world, opening new opportunities, and connecting with people from different cultures.
Until next time, keep practicing, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. You've got this.